Good evening and welcome to Oxygen Doi. My guests tonight are Philip Dumitrescu, whom you already know. And Philip, welcome to the fray, by the way, because I read your post on Oxygen Doi, and it seems to me that you are you have a very combative nature. You have sharp tools. Okay, and my guest, my other guest tonight, new at Oxygen Doi, is Jason Prodanov. Jason, welcome to Oxygen Doi. I will tell you a little bit about your background.
Well, my background is of ex-Yugoslav, that is Serbian descent.
Are you born in the States?
I was born and raised here in the States, actually in Chicago. Went to school here, finished with a degree in business and international finance. Worked in financial services and banking for the last 2 years, and right now I'm running the finances for a hotel in downtown Chicago.
What hotel?
The Avenue.
It's an international hotel?
It is.
It's an international hotel. Okay, so you are our expert tonight because we are going to talk about financial issues and social justice and democracy and globalization. Actually, we are going to start with a current event, the Occupy Wall Street movement. And first of all, let me ask you, what do you guys think about this movement? Is a revolutionary movement? Does it have a revolutionary program? Is something orchestrated by the extreme left or whatever else? It's a new hippie movement. What do you think about it?
Well, I don't think it's a revolutionary movement quite so much that it hasn't really achieved revolutionary ideas.
Has no program, for instance.
But I think it does have some left tendencies to it, where it is more liberal, it is more anti-conservative when it comes to its objectives. I think that there is.
Does it have any objective, by the way?
There are some objectives. I mean, it depends on what you want to. What they're protesting, I think, pretty much they're protesting the income gap, the lack of opportunity for students coming out of college with debt. They're protesting business, as usual, between Wall Street and Washington, and that they want to make a change between the 1% and the 99%, which is the vast majority of Americans.
Is this 1%, 99% a fact or just a myth, Jason?
It's definitely a fact.
And what do you think about the whole thing? Why are they not protesting against the government? Why they are protesting against the Wall Street
I think they're protesting against both because there is an Occupy Washington as well.
I agree.
So there are some facts. I have some facts written down. The top 1% make $343,000 or more on average a year. The bottom 99% make under $343,000, and the top 1% income has tripled from 1979 till 2007. Middle class incomes, which is pretty much the bottom 99, incomes went up 40% between 1979 and 2007. So the top 1% it goes up 300%. For the bottom 99%, it goes up only 40%. And for the poor class, that means people making under $20,000 a year, incomes went up 10% between 1979 and 2007. So obviously that the gap is narrowing where the top 1% is really pushing down on everything else. And it's the biggest widening of between rich and poor in the last 70 years, and that's from the Great Depression coming this way. So,
Jason, is this normal in a competitive economy where people are competing against one another? Is not this America? In America, highly achieving people get the prize of competitions?
I believe so. I believe this is the ultimate proof of a competitive economy.
And so you think there is nothing wrong with the American system?
That's not to say that there isn't anything wrong with it.
What is your take on the Occupy Wall Street movement?
I feel that while there is some merit to the frustrations that these people are protesting, I feel that it's misdirected.
Why misdirected?
Because I think that people have grown up in this concept of what America is, this concept of you can do anything, be anything.
Yeah.
And while that is true, and you know, there are many instances of this, and you know, generally speaking, it is true. I believe that generally people have become accustomed to it and have treated it more of an entitlement now, where, like myself,
Yeah.
I was born and raised here. I went to school here. I did all the right things. I got good grades. I went to university. I got a degree. And now I expect that my debt will be paid, or I will have minimal debt and have a job that pays me well, and that's how my life continues here. Now, that I feel that people believe that's an entitlement for being here, and I strongly disagree with that.
So it's not an
Okay, but-
entitlement. You disagree with the fact that people think it's an entitlement?
I don't think it is an entitlement, but I think that he thinks that if people expect that
Yeah.
when they come out of college and they come out with a $40 or $50 or $60,000 in debt, that they expect to get a job. Some people think that that's being entitled to get a job, and some people think that it's high expectations to get a job. But I believe that, like, if you do good in school and you do come out of college and you didn't have the means to pay for it by yourself, and then you do come out of college and you are an accountant or a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, and you are burdened with this much debt, and then there's nothing that will be out there to actually hire you, then what's the whole point of doing all this stuff? What's the whole point of getting educated and you know, burdening yourself with $40,000, $50,000 in debt to begin with?
I think that
So there's a lot of frustration. I believe that there's a lot of frustration out there that people are coming out of school and they're sacrificing 4-8 years of their life, and then they can't do anything with that, and it just bothers them, because until today, there hasn't really been that problem. You pretty much got out of college, you got a job, maybe not like right away, but soon, right out of college, and that was kind of the American dream since its founding, especially if you went to college. So I believe that but there's a part, the right part, the conservative part says, like, people should not expect that when they get out of college. And I find that very hard to believe.
So do people have the right to expect the system to work like the expectation of the American dream, okay? Or is just a false assumption? They are entitled to nothing. I mean, everything is just, life is not fair. The system is not fair. You should get used to it. And if the system is not working anymore, it's not anybody's fault. I mean, I think this is the conservative.
To say that life is not fair, and maybe entitlements was the wrong word to use.
Yeah.
To say that, you know, you would deserve something like this
Yeah.
because of the fact that you've come here, the American dream is what it is, and this is how the rules and how society has regulated this. However, I feel that, how do I word this correctly? There is something substantially or significantly wrong with the system, and I don't think that's a result of just what's happened within the United States of America. I think that the global climate has changed, and in our, I guess, ultimate competition, our competitiveness, our capitalistic sense, if you will, to make a dollar without spending a dollar has led us to cut corners, and by that we've cut corners here in the United States.
By cutting corners, you mean dealing unethically in financial?
Not unethically, meaning sending services, goods, opportunities for Americans outside of American soil, where the labor, where the regulations are less stringent, cheaper, where you can get away with more.
But okay, Jason, you are an accountant with a big business. It's not your job to make profit grow for your company. So if you can increase the profit of your business by sending jobs overseas and buying cheap services from China or India, is not this your job?
It is my job to make sure that my company remains profitable, and if possible, increase profits, yes.
Yeah.
However, this is that fine line that we get to of where is it capitalism and ultimate competition, and where is it ethically wrong to do certain things, and I think that line is very blurred.
So you think outsourcing is unethical or wrong?
To a certain extent, yes. I think for certain things, outsourcing is a good idea. However, unfortunately, this 99%, there are a lot of opportunities that we could have kept here in the United States for them that would have kept them employed.
May I speak like Romanian to
Sure.
ex-Yugoslavian? Okay. There are people in Bucharest or in Belgrade that make good money, right now, computer scientists or different kind of gifted young people make good money because of the outsourcing of jobs from United States.
Correct.
And so it's a kind of leveling the field of competition. And I think you all are all familiar with the slogan that the world is flat now. Okay? So, I mean, maybe it's not fair for the United States of America, but on the other hand, let me say something to you, okay? We are here three, you guys are two Americans. I'm an immigrant, I'm still Romanian, okay? But we are all from the same background, Eastern Europe. And let me say something. When I compare people from Romania or from Yugoslavia or from the Czech Republic to people in America, I can't help noticing that people in America are more overweight, of course, and slower in thinking and less interested in acquiring new knowledge in real competition. It seems to me that the true Americans, all French Americans, are immigrants coming here to compete, to work hard, to achieve. And so maybe it's the fault of the American education system and American mentality. Americans are no longer competitive. This is my feeling.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
I agree, but I disagree.
Okay.
I understand if you're Microsoft and you want to develop something and you might send it to Romania to develop, it might cost you less and it helps your bottom line. But the question is this. I remember Henry Ford saying, I read some quotes on him where he said one of the reasons why he was paying his employees a certain amount of money, a certain wages on his assembly lines in Detroit and whatever, was because he wanted them to eventually save up enough money to buy one of his own products.
Of course.
Okay?
Yeah.
Which made the cycle better for his employees, but also for the company. Now, I see that that's not really happening nowadays. I'm not an economist, I don't claim to be or anything, but it just seems like if there's a company that goes out there and says, okay, I can make this product for $100 in America, but I can make it for $40 in China, but I'm still selling it for $200. So let's take a smartphone, for instance, okay? If Apple makes, and I'm a big Apple fan, so if Apple makes an iPhone in America, it will probably cost twice as much, okay? But the question is, how much are they going to charge for it? Are they going to charge 3 times as much, or are they going to charge twice as much if they make it here? So if it costs them, on average, I don't know, don't quote me on this or something, if it costs about $300 or $400 to make an iPhone, and then they sell it here for $600 at an Apple store, this is without contract and whatever, they're making double the amount of money. So, they sell it for $600, they make it for $300. And if they would make it here, and let's say for $400, isn't $200 enough profit as it is? Because the question comes down to it, okay, you're giving a bunch of Chinese a bunch of work, but on the other hand, how many jobs are you taking away from Americans? And these are American companies. Now, if a Chinese company wants to make their own smartphone, that's a whole different story, but we're talking about America here. And America is the driving engine of the world's economy. So that's why it kind of bothers a lot of people where these companies and these Wall Street executives are making so much money on the backs of middle America because we are buying the products. They won't have a business unless we buy it. But that's where I see the discrepancy.
I'm not asking whether or not the process is good, okay? My question is this trend reversible? Is this an objective law of history? I mean, we are we are becoming global, a global society. Can anybody reverse this trend? I don't think so.
I don't think it's reversible, but why is it that in Germany there isn't this income inequality? Why is it in Germany they don't have, it's not 99% versus 1%. It's more like, 20, 30% versus 60, 70%.
But I think this has always been a fact in America, isn't it? That rich people get richer and richer. And I mean, yes.
So is it possible that I will be the next Bill Gates? Highly unlikely. Actually, almost definitely not possible. However, what is my measure of rich? What is my measure of wealth that will allow me to determine whether I have, quote unquote, made it in America? And I think this is the one thing that people are misunderstanding is, what does rich mean? Is everybody going to be rich? No, it can't happen. However, what is your value? What is your worth? What monetary value do you literally place on your goals? And I think that's where we all need to start, is give a value to it. Now, I'm sorry.
But the question is this: why did people come to America in the first place? They left the old world to come to the new world to start a new future.
Yeah.
They left an aristocratic kingdom or a republic that was favored more for the rich to start a new life in America, where they can get cheap land and get a good job or make a decent living, not under the boot of a baron or something, or some form of aristocrat. So that was one of the founding principles of this country. What bothers me is that it's going back to how it was in the old world, that you have these oligarchs or aristocrats that are the 1%, just like it was in medieval Europe or in 18th century Europe. And it's turning from where people can make a decent living by working hard to making not such a decent living by working hard.
Is this an American problem or is it a global problem now? Because I have the feeling that there is a new global power, which is not a governmental superpower, a national superpower. It's a corporate superpower. And it seems to me that there is a financial international oligarchy that is keeping things under control. And so I believe, in my humble opinion, this brings as a reaction new kind of international, not proletarian, but white collars, computer scientists, business people against this oligarchy. So I think we should forget about America. Basically, I think the thing is international. Maybe we should focus on the global issues. I don't know if you agree with me.
Well, Occupy Wall Street is a global thing. There's demonstrations happening everywhere.
There's over 100 different cities where demonstrations are being held.
So it's not only happening in New York.
My question is this: can you fix things in America without fixing them on a global scale? I mean, it could have been possible 20, 30 years ago. But today, can you fix things in America, in Romania, in Europe without fixing things at global scale?
By saying fixing things on a global scale, what you're implying is that there's something fundamentally wrong globally.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that we, the United States, we're a global superpower.
Yeah.
We are, although it's feigning. But our ability to compete globally now, because of how progressive we were with our I guess you could say capitalism or capitalistic sentiment, has basically, I don't want to say backfired, but it has somewhat, where we're trying to take advantage of or exploit other countries with cheaper labor by moving businesses outside of the United States for certain benefits. And that has allowed these other countries to become more competitive. Now they're getting more opportunity. They're being allowed to educate themselves. And America's becoming less of a desirable place to want to come to create a life and to create a new life.
Okay, it's my understanding that America changed a lot. By the way, coming to America, myself, I expressed a disappointment because I didn't find America like the America I used to know from movies and books and, okay, especially in a communist country, beyond the curtain, the Iron Curtain. But in fact, I think when you go to, let's say, compare a banana republic to America, whenever you are trying to make a reform in a banana republic, let's say Romania, Albania, Yugoslavia, even so, okay, they are not banana republics, but they are not so functional as democracies. Okay, whenever you try to implement a change, you have a financial oligarchy that basically is hijacking the government and lawmaking process and doing their own agenda. It seems to me that this is happening in America right now.
But that's what's wrong about the whole thing.
But this is wrong in the whole world. Let me give you an example. I want to ask you a question. How about laws restricting for instance, let me ask you a question about the net neutrality issue. Okay. Because a lot of, it seems to me that big business wants to revoke net neutrality. And there is a conspiracy theory going on by conservative talk shows. Like they want, net neutrality means having internet under the control of the United Nations, not of the United States. So there are a lot of nationalistic feelings here. But in fact, how do you see this thing like net neutrality? Is it good or bad for the common person?
I think it's horrible.
It's horrible. Why?
Yes, I think the internet is the last frontier.
Yeah.
It's the last way for people to truly
So
be able to
what's
globally
horrible? Removing it or keeping it?
controlling it,
Controlling it.
censoring it.
Yeah,
I
censoring.
think
Yeah.
is horrible. Yes, I do disagree with some of the things that are found on the internet.
Yeah,
I
of
think
course.
that some things are repulsive, and I think that
course.
there's cruel things. However, to censor something like the internet, I think is very it's bad for humanity.
But there's obviously companies out there
Yeah.
that want to pay a certain price to get a certain aspect of the internet going towards them
Yeah.
because they're big players in the system. Obviously, Google wants to have more power than Oxygen
But
2.
Google is against it.
Okay.
Google is yeah.
I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
I understand net neutrality is trying to be controlled by like Comcast and some other people.
Yeah.
And whatever. But they are obviously some big players versus small players. But if Oxygen 2.net
Of course.
gets a billion hits tomorrow, that's going to make you a big dog.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's about a perspective to it. I'm not trying to be towards. I'm for net neutrality. I think pretty much people should just leave it alone, and whatever happens, happens. And there's good things and there's positive. Just like censorship, you should be able to say whatever you want as long as you keep it within some good limits. But it's complicated, and I don't think it's a nationalistic thing. I don't think that the UN is trying to do anything.
Of course,
but
no.
but
But
the
there is a
internet is only
conspiracy
going to
theory.
be. Yeah, there's conspiracy theories about everything. So, I mean,
If you listen to talk show, radio talk show, you hear a lot about it.
of course, but a lot of those radio talk shows sometimes they exaggerate some points
Of course,
that are not.
of course, yeah.
They try to light a fire where there shouldn't be a fire lit. So,
And how about, Jason, how about anti-piracy laws? Are they really fair? Or is just a way to protect the big business interest here? Like, let me ask you a question. For instance, there was a lady, she was fined like $220,000 for 10 songs she took from internet, and then she made a recourse, and her fine was lowered to $190,000 or something like that. Okay, I mean it's very disproportionate, like 10 songs or 15, whatever, an album, $200,000. What do you think about this?
I think it's unreasonable. It's disproportionate, like you said. However, I think piracy is something that is it's prevalent and people are going to steal. I happen to be a big music fan. There are a lot of bands that I'm a large fan of that if piracy was somewhat, was less of an issue, they would never have survived. They would have never been known. However, at the same time, if it wasn't for people sharing music, downloading this song and hearing the song, they wouldn't have probably bought the album that had come out. So I'm not entirely sure. I haven't read into the specifics of the plan, but there has to be some sort of balance there.
Obviously, it's not fair to be an artist.
Yeah.
To go to a studio and to make some form of music or, a movie or something like that, be an actor or a producer of a movie or a show or something, and to have it downloaded off the internet for free. But on the other hand, it's since Napster was invented and some of these file sharing and BitTorrents and all that stuff have been invented, and it's made it easier for people to access all these things without actually leaving the house and going to a store and physically getting a CD or a DVD or a Blu-ray or something and bringing it home and having to use it at that point. It makes our life a little bit easier, but they are not getting paid enough to do that. Now, for me, for instance, sometimes it is easier for me to look it up on a torrent site than to go to Best Buy and buy the DVD, and it takes me an hour to download it or something, and it's a lot easier, but it's not technically fair to the companies that are paying, hundreds of millions of dollars to produce a movie. Take Avatar, right? It cost $400 million to make, and it made $1 billion worldwide and all that, but if you wait 6 months, you can get it off of a torrent site, the same quality as it was on TV, at the theater. And some people, they can wait that long and they don't care.
Is the loss really substantial, or is just a kind of slippery slope they are afraid of when talking about piracy?
It's not about the loss. Okay, take for instance the music industry. The music industry was making a lot of money. So if they sign a group like the Beatles or something, and they keep making money on those sales and every time it's played on the radio and so forth and so on. So when they get a big hit or they get a big band that produces a lot of music, they keep making money in royalties, and so does the band. But they also have people going out there looking for this talent, and they have people that actually can assess talent more than just the public. And then they put it on the radio or they put it on some stations, and they have all the infrastructure related to finding people who are actually good at this stuff. And if you cut that out, it's pretty much who's going to put these people in a studio? Who's going to find them at a high school concert and then put them in a studio and put them with a producer and a music producer and fine-tune them to where they can become something famous through that channel.
Philip, I agree with you.
But on the other hand, when they're charging $15 for something you can get on the internet for free.
This is competition and it's a free market after all. But there is an issue between the Parliament of Europe and the United States of America, because America, in order to fight piracy, they are trying to restrict internet access, to revoke some IPs and domains, to censor the internet. And so, do you think that this might be a symptom that one way or another the system was hijacked by big business and rich people, or is just the normal way?
But there are copyright laws involved too.
Yeah, of course.
So every time you download something, you are technically breaking a law.
Yeah.
And that's a law that was not, it's not something new. This is back,
Let me give you an
30,
example.
40.
It happened here in Chicago. There was a party. They rented a movie hall. The lady recording a few minutes from a movie on her cell phone. The theater administrator, whatever he was, called the police. Police said they have more important business to do than arrest a lady who just used her cell phone to record a few scenes from a movie. They insisted. They pulled some strings. So they came, they arrested the lady. I mean, is this not a little too far? I mean, I need this police force to protect me from gangsters and violent people and murderers. I mean, why not just make a lawsuit against that lady, you know? Why handcuff her and arrest for a few minutes?
I agree too.
Is this not an evidence that corporations already have too much political power? Like they tell a police officer, your priority is to arrest a lady who used her cell phone to record a few scenes from a movie, not to go after a gangster, okay, not to protect people on the streets. I mean, this is Chicago, you know, the capital of the crime, a violent crime, or maybe one of the capitals. Okay.
Maybe at a certain point in time, not necessarily today.
Yeah.
I think that whether it's controlled or whether big businesses have control of this, it all comes down to, again, politics. Yes, being able to lobby is one of the freedoms of democracy. With lobbying means there's money. When money's thrown around, that means the politicians that get the money are the ones that are going to fight for whichever party got them into their seat. However, at the same time, you do also have to pick. Everybody has the right. Everybody has the freedom to choose. So essentially, the lobbyists pick, you get from a group of 12, you make it 6. And then from those 6, we have to choose who is the best, who best represents us. So is democracy a part of that? Do big businesses control that? To an extent.
Yeah.
That's why there should be a compromise.
Yeah.
You go on iTunes and you pay $1 for a song. You pay $2 or $3 for a TV show or a movie, or $10 for a movie. You pay $20 for a book or an audio book or something like that. There's certain ways of trying to bridge the divide between people who actually make things and people who actually use things, and especially the ones that use them for free. So there's a lot of people out there. I mean, I go on iTunes and I buy a lot of stuff on iTunes, and hopefully it gets to the point where you pay for what you use. But obviously there's always going to be people who do not want to pay for anything. So
yeah, this is the fact.
And that's the, okay, 15 years ago, before the internet was a big thing and before music was downloadable and before there was iTunes and MP3s and all that stuff, you physically had to go to a store to buy everything.
Yeah.
And now it's not like that. And it was a lot harder for you to take a tape recorder and to record every song and then make another copy and then make another copy and give it to everybody for free than it is now, where you can put 15,000 songs on an MP3 player. That has made things complicated, where you can download whole volumes of music in hours.
And of course, you need new laws, you know.
And new laws. So some of this stuff has to get changed. It has to accommodate with the time. But yeah, I agree that certain corporations have a lot of power and they have a lot of sway and they have a lot of control over things. But on the other hand,
I want
times
to move,
are changing. So
to move beyond this issue, talk about changing times. And I have a question for the both of you. During the history of this world, basically what we call the Western world moved from east westward, along with the sun. So it started from Egypt, Babylonia, Middle Persian Empire, Greece, Rome, Western Europe, hopefully Yugoslavia and Romania are part of it, okay? Moved toward America. And some people say the trend continues to move westward, like China and India and South Korea and Japan are becoming the new West, while the old West is falling or fading. Like you remember during the Bush era, they used to say old Europe and new Europe, you know? They say the old West and the new West. Do you agree that basically the West is moving westward toward China and India? It's hard for me to define the West, okay? It's a very complicated thing. Maybe Philip is the historian. He knows better. Philip, by the way, how would you define the West?
Oh, boy. take like Western civilization, I
Yeah.
think it pretty much everything that has kind of a Greco-Roman tradition until today.
Like reason.
With you know, Christianity, and then the Renaissance, and then the Enlightenment, and the Age of Reason, and then into the Industrial Revolution, and into today. If it's going westward, if the boundary,
Yeah.
I think there's just more people joining the Western camp. I don't think that there's really a line that moves ananymore. I think that's why
So it's
people,
no geographic anymore.
I think that's why people in China or in Korea or something, they dress up more like us than we do like them. If people looked at how people dressed up in China maybe 100 years ago, it would be a lot different than what Europeans were wearing at the same period of time. But now, they're all pretty much wearing the same thing. So there are certain aspects of form of government, commerce,
Military,
computers, military,
education, school, yeah. Music, facts.
music, entertainment, TV shows, all that stuff. I consider, for instance, I consider Japan a Western country, and it's been. I think it's been a Western country since they entered the Industrial Revolution of the late 1800s. And
Yeah. Jason, what's the most dynamic financial powers today? Or most dynamic, I mean developing, you know.
Most highly developing.
The development, not the most powerful, like United States is for sure, the most developing, most dynamic.
Well, you have the BRIC countries of Brazil, Russia, India, and China. Those are the four main most highly developing emerging economies in the world right now. You'll hear that very frequently throughout.
How do you explain that success? Like comparing with the stagnation of Europe and the United States.
Well, exactly that. Just like we spoke earlier, with us outsourcing, seeking opportunities, exploiting cheaper labor rates, cheaper resources.
Yeah.
What that did was allow these other economies to slowly grow. Back, I would say, maybe 15, 20 years ago, a lot of the telecommunications industry and the IT industry was outsourcing, large corporations were outsourcing their call centers to India.
Yeah.
Now that's become standard practice these days. But what it allowed was for the India to learn English, to be educated, to become more competitive in that landscape, and with that allowed them opportunities to show that their intellectual capacity and knowledge of engineering and sciences is unrivaled almost, or rivals that of the United States or China.
I mean, in the United States, people are becoming lawyers or business people or whatever, no offense, okay? And in China, in India, they're becoming engineers and scientists.
they're also becoming business people.
They are
Okay, they also becoming business. But, you know, I read an essay by Thomas Friedman, and he said that basically he attended a banquet in Washington with the best students in science, the high school students, and almost all the names were Asian Americans. Then a few Slavic names and Eastern European names, you know. Almost no Anglo-Saxon name among them, and not because Anglo-Saxons are stupid, but because they have other priorities, like not science, not math.
They value differently.
Yeah.
I think the values are different. Cultural values are different. I know I was always raised personally to understand mathematics very well.
Yeah.
You need to understand that because mathematics is a fundamental part of life.
Of course, yeah.
And I think that part of my culture allowed me to succeed so far
In
my career in business. Within that, I mean, I have a decent grasp, I would say, on mathematics. However, I'm no engineer. I don't know differential equations.
Yeah.
But people that grow up in these households where it's pushed. You know, as a child, you were forced, but you were encouraged, highly encouraged and motivated to learn sciences, to learn mathematics. I think it sets up, or it allows the person or the culture to excel now, especially within a globalized economy such as this.
But I have a little story.
Yeah.
One of my closest friends, named Andrew, he works for International Truck and Engines, Navistar, if you've ever heard of them. They make pretty much semi-trucks, school buses, all this stuff. And they want to expand into China. And he's their director of operations. They're based out of Melrose Park. And they're, you know, very big company, billion-dollar sales in sales, and they do very well. He goes to China maybe once every 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
He said pretty much this: you want to do business in China, you have to build a factory in China. You want to sell something in China, you have to build that factory that makes that stuff in China to sell it to a Chinese public.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Chinese economy is booming. They need
Yeah.
trucks to ship stuff there. If they want to buy international trucks in China or Navistar
Yeah.
trucks in China, they need to make it in China to be sold in China. Same thing for GM, same thing for a lot of companies. And when they take into consideration how cheap it is to make those products in
Yeah.
China to begin with, of course they're going to want to bring it here and to sell it here as well. So the question is, not always, typically speaking, I'm not denying that the education
Yeah.
system's screwed up and that
Yeah.
you know, there's a lot more engineers that are graduating in China from college than they are as a percentage in America and all that. But their government is making them money as well. It's helping their system work.
Yeah.
When our government is not in so much helping us do that. And I'm speaking from a friend that, you know, that I've known for a long time, for 12 years, and we meet and we discuss these subjects all the time. And it's interesting, he said that the system is just set up for people to make money there. And
Yeah.
here, it's not set up like that anymore.
So basically, it seems to me that there is no longer a push in science and education in the United States of America. Is this true? Or is just my
I don't think
impression?
you could draw that conclusion from
Yeah.
what we just spoke about. I think that what Phil was trying to say was that allowing the freedom of capitalism to
Yeah.
progress essentially backfired on us.
Okay, what is the solution? Because our time is already running out. What is the solution for the United States of America and for the world?
Oh boy.
Okay.
If I knew the answer to that.
You are here to save the world.
Obviously,
I invited to rescue the world. So
Right.
tell us
I
what you have to do.
think there's a few solutions. I think education should be cheaper.
Yeah.
I think that it shouldn't be that expensive to go to school. I think that people back when in the 60s and 70s.
Should not education be free? College education. I mean, if you want to go to Harvard, to Yale, just pay your bill.
Okay, in China it is free,
Yeah.
but it's limited. We have a higher percentage of people going to college than they do in China.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? So our percentage-wise is a lot
higher,
higher,
yeah.
okay? But if you do get to a college in China, you don't pay for it.
Yeah.
So there is certain advantages. They have a limited amount of spaces, but if you get into that space, it's
You
free.
compete for that space.
You compete for that space. In America, pretty much anybody can go to school if they want to. And I don't think it should be free, but I don't think it should be as expensive as it is. Post World War II and the baby boom generation, all that stuff, education was pretty reasonable, and it wasn't very expensive and out of hand. And now it's becoming very out of hand.
And that was a time where we were the most competitive in the world.
As
Education, in education.
Everybody
That's
was,
when we ran
was
things.
coming to America to get an education.
But to piggyback off of that,
Yeah.
along with education back then, we had industry, we had manufacturing,
Yeah.
we had jobs, we had opportunities for people who, unfortunately, in society may not be of the greatest intellectual capacity that could be an engineer or
Yeah.
be somebody to run things that's better with their hands.
Just an interesting statistic. You do get out of college nowadays,
Yeah.
and unemployment for college graduates is only like 4 or 5%.
Yeah.
It's very high for the people that are not college graduates.
Yeah.
For them, it's like 9 or 10%. So the question becomes: Is everybody going to be college educated?
They should. They should.
But on the other hand, how do you have a society where everybody is white collar?
Yeah.
Because that is an impossibility.
It is.
No, I mean.
Because you do need somebody to clean.
Yeah,
You
you
need somebody
have
to-
immigrants from Mexico, from
I understand,
third world
but
countries.
okay, so you cut off the immigration part, okay? Let's say you slow
Yeah.
that down. Who's gonna mow the lawn? Who's gonna build a car? Who's gonna put a building together? Who's gonna make this table that we're talking on? If everybody is a college-educated person, because it
Yeah,
comes down to it.
understand, yeah.
So that's why.
College-educated persons.
That's why I think that America should become a society where you give a person that has a high school education a decent paying job and obviously make the college cheap so people who do go through that battle of college and get an education where they do get the schooling that they can make enough money as well, not be worried about.
Okay, so education is one issue. Jason, in your opinion, what is the issue to be fixed in order for things to go back on track?
To go back on track, well, I agree with Philip. Education is vital to getting us back on track, so to speak. But I also think, like I said earlier, bringing manufacturing, bringing industry back, giving those people who are not college educated and probably will not be a college educated, not have that opportunity, an opportunity to work and
Is
to
it
make
realistic?
a wage to. I think it's realistic.
It's realistic. It's possible to reverse the trend.
It's not a
globalization?
reversal. It's not a trend reversal. I don't think it's
No?
a trend reversal. No, I think it's balancing, stabilizing. So if some people may perceive it as reversing the progress that we've made, but as you can see from the progress in creating this service economy or solely service economy, we've essentially we've made it more difficult for us to compete globally.
Okay, let me ask a question because our time is really running out. So, is it true that I understand that many things changed in America? I mean, I came in '98, so, but you know a lot about, I mean, not about the history only. You lived in a different America, it seems to me. Is this a fact? Was America different when
Yeah, it
you were kids
Much
and
different.
schoolboys? What changed in America?
I think pretty much like my parents' generation, they came here, my mother came in 1969 and my father came in 1974. People can come here. They don't have to be very special. They didn't have to have excellent schooling or anything, and they would get a decent paying job, buy a house in a few years, buy a nice car, and live their life and then retire eventually. Now it doesn't seem like you can do that as much anymore. And I think it's sad. School was a lot cheaper when I was going to school, and now it's a lot more expensive. People go to school and they make, they spend $20,000, $30,000 a year, which is not, it's not easy money.
Jason, and this is the last question. I'm listening to Jason, then to Philip. Maybe, I'm just wondering, maybe ethics is also an issue today in America, around the world. For instance, I see a lot of scams, a lot of Ponzi schemes, pyramids, all kind of business. You get rich quickly and make a lot of money, so everybody's trying to do it. I think that this is not what used to be in America, like 20 or 30 years before. There are gangsters and, of course, crooks and everything, but I think it's an epidemic of crooking and getting rich quick and all kind of schemes. Is this true?
I think some people, most people are inherently lazy. I do, and I think that's part of culture. I come from a poor immigrant family. Nothing was guaranteed. They were janitors for many years until they finally retired. Yes, people tried to exploit them as well. Now, get-rich-quick schemes, my opinion on things of that nature are if you are foolish enough to believe that it's possible to get rich quick, then I think you have a very faint grip on reality.
So you think
I
it's
do not think it's
possible?
possible, and I think people that believe that you can somehow get rich quick, that it can magically happen,
Yeah.
are the same people that come from where I come from, that believe that money grows on trees here in the United States. And that's very foolish, and I really think they need to reassess what they believe this country is about.
So you think that those schemes don't work? And how about, what is the name of that Ponzi schemer?
Madoff?
Madoff.
Bernie
He
Madoff.
was really successful in getting rich.
The largest Ponzi scheme in history.
Yeah, in history, yeah. But I mean, he failed eventually. Okay, last question. Are you optimistic or skeptical about the future of the global economy? Do you believe that we are headed for a catastrophe, or that things would recover?
From what perspective?
Yeah, not a religious perspective. You know, I want just a technical perspective.
From a technical
Yeah,
perspective?
not prophetic. Okay.
My opinion is that America isn't what it was.
Is
It
it-
isn't, and I don't think it'll be what it once used to be anymore. I don't think it's realistically possible to reverse the clock. And what has been done globally now cannot be reversed, and that we can either keep up
Yeah.
and stabilize or fall.
Or fall. So you think a global fall is
Global fall
possible?
A global fall, no.
No.
However, I believe that for the United States,
Yeah.
if we don't take certain measures and certain actions to somewhat stabilize this economy and kind of worry about how we function here, it'll be a slippery slope, and it'll get worse.
Okay, Philip.
I think if we do implement some changes, whether it's some of the Occupy Wall Street changes or some of the Tea Party changes, make a balanced budget, even the tax code where, pretty
Yeah.
much everybody pays the same amount of taxes, and make it easier for people to get an education at a lower cost. I think we do have a bright future, but if some of these things don't get resolved, it's going to be hard. But on the other hand, China does need us, because if we're not buying their stuff, who is? And
India.
And if we go down, there was an expression back in the late 90s when there was an Asian financial crisis in the late 90s, that when America sneezes, Asia gets a cold.
Yeah.
So we have to take that into consideration, that if Europe gets sick, maybe we might get sick. If America gets sick, maybe Asia gets sick. It's also
global.
It's also interconnected now, where the U.S. economy is not so self-reliant anymore that they can pretty much keep everything internal, where we're buying our own stuff and selling to ourselves, where we have to buy from, we have to buy oil from the Middle East to put, into cars made in here, and to put it into computers made in China to power.
Taiwan.
It's all this stuff where it's all interdependent, and hopefully we do get out of this rut that we've been in for the last 3 or 4 years, and try to resolve the situation.
So are you, do you
I'm
believe-
optimistic. I'm
Yeah,
generally optimistic. Yeah.
You're optimistic but cautious, I think. Yeah.
Skeptical but optimistic. let's put it that way.
Okay. Thank you very much. Our time is out, and I want to thank you for your inputs and for your rescuing the world tonight. Okay. Hopefully tomorrow will be a better day. Have a good night, and I am waiting for your input on the blog. Please keep in mind, Jason doesn't understand Romanian at all. And so keep it in English. Thank you, and have a good night.
Thank you.